Hello, my friends. Welcome to another episode of Deep True Crime. I'm Manny Rodriguez. I want to continue the coverage of Bryan Kohberger. Finally had his day in court. If you've been following my channel, you know I went live this morning, making it like a court day type thing, where we recapped on a bunch of stuff and what we knew up to today. Well, now I want to give you another recap on what has happened since. There was a body cam footage that was made available to the public. As we have heard, he was pulled over twice in Indiana. Now, according to the sheriff in Idaho, they didn't know about it. But you know how quickly news can get around when it comes to the media anymore. So let's go ahead and dive into what we know at this time. So, the Idaho quadruple suspect, Bryan Kohberger, you can even see his face in this image right now. He looks a little worried at that very moment, doesn't he? This is when he was pulled over by Indiana State Police last month while sat next to his dad. His dad, as we know, drove cross country with him from Washington all the way back to their hometown in Pennsylvania. His dad and mom currently live there. I don't know about the sisters living with them, but they look to currently live in Pennsylvania. But here he was in the white Hyundai Elantra that the police have been asking for all help as much as possible tracking down this white Hyundai Elantra. Now, his Elantra is actually a 2015, and they were looking for more of a 2011 through 2013. Well, here he is in his Elantra, and body cam footage shows the moment an officer approached Kohberger's sedan on December 15th on the I-70 just outside Indianapolis that I have traveled a million times, it feels, because I used to live in Indiana, and I-70 goes right by us, right all the way into Indiana, all the way through Indianapolis. So here he was pulled over just outside Indianapolis. And this was just made public today after he had his day in court, where he is going to be extradited back to Idaho, where he will face 4 counts of first degree along with burglary. And this police body cam footage, you can see where him and his dad are in there. And guess who is driving? Is this guy not worried about this huge alert nationwide that was going on? I'm in Missouri, and I cannot tell you how many times I've seen a white Hyundai Elantra, but you know what? I never called anything in. I never saw anything that made me feel like that was the car I was looking at, right? But this car was being looked for every which way, especially by people who follow this case. And so this footage was released by Indiana State Police Monday evening, hours after Kohberger agreed to be extradited. Monday evening, I would say it's today, so Tuesday evening. That's when it was released as far as I can tell. I didn't see anything on Monday evening, but Tuesday is when I started hearing all about it. And this was hours after he agreed and signed his name to the paper, showing that, hey, I am willing to be extradited from his home in Monroe County, Pennsylvania, to Idaho to face 4 first-degree charges. During this stop, Kohberger's father also appeared concerned. If you look at him, he's like, why are we being pulled over? As the officer asked Kohberger for his license. And truth is, why would he be? That's my thought process in this matter as well. Like, there is really no reason to be concerned unless you know something. But let's go ahead and take a look at that footage there so that we can see it together. you can see the officer approaching on that side. He asks him for his license and registration. And obviously, let's be real, Bryan had to be pooping in his boots. Come on. Look at his face, right? When he's pulled over. Look at his face. He has to be a little worried about that, right?
I stopped you when you were driving by me there. You're a little too close to back that semi. You in the back of the trailer.
Oh.
10 miles an hour, so you're going 60 or 70 miles an hour. About 6 or 7 miles. Oh, you guys did?
Yeah, man. You said that.
You guys stopped by a trooper? We don't have any SUVs. It was a county guy. Was it like a black SUV?
Yeah.
Okay. All right. And you thought you guys were following too closely? Okay.
What happened to WSU when my son goes to school shooting?
Today? Well, I'm not going to give you guys another ticket or warning if you just got stopped. Just make sure you give yourself plenty of room, okay? So like I said, it's all about how fast you're going, okay? So if you're going 10 miles an hour, you only need one car. Or if you're going, so the speed limit here is 7. If you're going 7 miles an hour, you need 7 car miles. Yeah. That's the easy way to explain it. Right? Yeah. Okay. It's really, if you're in the B&B manual, it says 2 to 3 seconds. All right. You guys have a safe trip. Where y'all heading?
Thank you so much for stopping.
Where y'all heading to? Huh? Oh, where at? PA? It's a long haul. You guys scared of airplanes?
As you're listening to that, it's a little hard to hear completely the audio. I wish I could have just turned it up a little more or something like that. But you can see he's standing there up against, talking to them. And this is the one you just watched was when he was following too closely in that video. That's where, because he was pulled over 2 times in this particular case. And so obviously he's a little worried about that because he is, he committed a murder. He does not know what they would want from him. At least that would be my train of thought. I don't know. What do you guys think? Let me know in the comments. But, during the stop, Kohberger's father is said to be a little concerned. He was pulled over twice within 9 minutes while driving along I-70. Again, in December on their way to Pennsylvania. State police told Fox 59 that there was no information available for the suspect in the Idaho murders at the time of the stop. So they had no reason to believe anything other than, I better stop these people because they're driving too close, right? Or I better stop them because they're speeding. Not too sure on the next one, but we'll find out here in a second. I believe it was a speeding. But Idaho cops, they first appealed for information on a white Hyundai Elantra on December 7th. This happened, December 15th? So it wasn't as big as it was, say, the 14th or December 21st. And we don't even know how much they were tracking them at that time, because I don't think they started tracking them for at least for 4 days. So if they're on their way to Idaho, and this is December 17th, December 15th, when they're on their way to Idaho, well, then, it doesn't even ramp up until even a little more after that, right? That's where it's like Kohberger, who was eventually arrested just this past Friday on December 30th at his parents' house in Pennsylvania over this mass slaying of the 4 University of Idaho students on November 13th. So here we have this video of them getting pulled over. Now, the stop happened before 11 a.m. It was reportedly the second time within just a few minutes that he was pulled over. Again, we have to take everything with a grain of salt because we were not there. So we should always be careful with everything information that we're consuming, right? Kohberger, his father, had flown to Washington in order to drive back with his son, something that he is said to have been proud of as they drove their way back east to Pennsylvania. And so, interesting. So what I believe is he might have been stopped twice for the same issue, following too closely. The Hancock County Sheriff's Department, they did confirm that Kohberger was indeed pulled over by a deputy at around 10:41 a.m. on December 15th for following too closely. Kohberger was pulled over near the 107-mile marker and given a verbal warning. Now, looking at this body cam, it did confirm that Kohberger and someone else were visible in the deputy's body cam. During the footage, the officer informs Kohberger that he had been driving too close to a semi. That's what you heard as we were listening to that. Kohberger tells the officer that he had also been pulled over for traveling too closely earlier. The officer decides to let him go with just a verbal warning. So he didn't learn his lesson the first time, and yet this officer didn't give him a ticket. Okay. The officer asked the pair, "Yay, where are you guys traveling to?" When he was told Pennsylvania, the officer responds, "That's a long haul. You guys ever heard of airplanes?" Before waving them off with a laugh and a friendly goodbye. Like, no reason to be alarmed that this guy who did the most heinous act on November 13th, but I'm sure the officer deputy most likely probably heard of the Idaho 4. But unless he has a reason to suspect these two, there's no reason to be suspecting them, right? But he is expected to be transported back to the college town of the University of Idaho college town in Moscow, Idaho, where he is accused of what he's done to these 4 college students in cold blood. Kohberger, he denies that he is responsible for this, but he is not fighting extradition. He says he is eager to get back to Idaho where he can answer the charges formally. And here we have this criminology PhD student who was arrested at his parents' house in Pennsylvania on Friday, December 30th. They were among those in court today in Stroudsburg, where he was seen getting out of this cabbie or his transport vehicle and walking in to the courthouse. And of course, everyone deserves their day in court. And his family is seen here getting out of the vehicle about an hour before he was to sign his papers. And then we don't really know. The cops have kept this very hush-hush about when he's leaving for obvious reasons, right? But truth is, a lot of people, just like the parents here, they were all walking in. I don't know if they were just wearing COVID masks or they did not want to be seen because they were literally covered up. They had their COVID masks, they had some hats, they had hoods. They looked like they were trying to evade the media, literally. And so here's his sister and his mother, and then in the back with the gray sweater is his dad, who was also seen in the footage. They literally had all of the barricades up and blocked this place off for quite the distance. And Kohberger's Pennsylvania attorney, LeBar, he previously revealed that his family's belief is that he's innocent, despite investigators claiming that his DNA matches a sample found at the crime scene in November. It could take up to 10 days for him to be sent back to Idaho. I personally think they're saying that so that people are not literally trying to follow every movement outside of that place, haunting them. You don't know who is going to do the worst to him. Many of us probably really don't care what happens to him. I personally want him to see his day in court. If he is saying he's innocent, let him have his day in court. And he arrived to his hearing hours early. Was that a safety precaution? Because there was literally a swarm of Pennsylvania state troopers everywhere. There were sheriff's deputies everywhere, and media, the people, the reporters, they were literally outside. Click, click, click. And there were even several photographers asking him questions. But of course, he didn't say anything. He didn't say anything. And a lot of people were said to have been caught off guard because they didn't expect them there. They were just waiting there. They knew it was first come, first serve to get into the building, so they were just waiting for him. They really did not know when to expect them, allegedly. But there was no live feed, so that you really couldn't hear anything, but a select number of photographers were allowed inside, along with the journalists who were writing up a bunch of stories on this. And much of the case, this really remains a mystery until he has served his day in court in Idaho. Then we'll get a little more insight into what happened. We have no clue when we will get access to this affidavit. No clue whatsoever. But prosecutors are yet to share what is the motive behind why Kohberger would do this to these 4 innocent kids. And it's also said that he stalked the girls weeks in advance. And right now, we still don't know, did he know any of the victims? What we do want to know is why. I really want to know why. Why would you do such a heinous thing? We can speculate all day. But these details, they're expected to come out when the probable cause affidavit is released and the charging document that remains sealed until he receives it and the judge has to say, okay, release it. But right now, he's maybe still in Pennsylvania. Right after the hearing, he literally could have been off. He could have been off. He could have been on a private jet or something. But again, his family says he's innocent. He says he's innocent. We only can go with what law enforcement is telling us. Right now, it seems like a lot of us are leaning towards law enforcement says they got the right guy. I'm believing they got the right guy. But he still deserves his day in court so that everything can be laid out if he is saying he's innocent. Otherwise, you'll be facing this death plea. And if you don't want to face that, then plea a deal. Will anyone else be arrested? We still don't know. We don't know anything about the weapon. We don't know where it's at. But at the end of the day, he deserves his day in court, and I'm not going to deny that either. Investigators that were hired by Bryan Kohberger's defense team is expected to inspect the murder house, where the 4 college students have since passed away. The suspected killer, Bryan Kohberger, has sent investigators hired by his defense team to Idaho to the home where the slaying took place. 3 men and 2 women arrived at the property at 1122 King Road in Moscow around noon. This is according to Fox News. They reportedly spent around 45 minutes taking video footage inside and outside the property. And 4 of the investigators then left the property, but a crime scene reconstruction analyst remained unseen. This is huge. So I find that very interesting for the defense team. They're going to work, it looks like. But at this time, it looks like he's going to be having a public defender. 4 of the investigators, again, left the property. But 1 person remained. The crime scene reconstruction analyst stayed on scene. Now, it is unclear if Kohberger will be represented by a public or a private lawyer. My guess is it will be private. The magnitude of this case, some defense attorney, hey, if you're telling me you're innocent, I want to go to bat for you. If you're guilty, then we'll work on a plea. Someone's going to want their name on this case. You know, it is unusual for the defense attorneys paid by the state to create a reconstruction of the crime scene, which is what leads me to believe that someone is going to be pro bono in this thing to have their name on it. That's my guess at this time. Kohberger's parents, they have insisted they don't have the money for a private attorney, which is what leads me to believe they will have some high-powered private attorney says, I will take your case. And Kohberger, he is a criminal justice graduate student. And he is arrested in this, but was all his studies leading to this? Was all his studies? We will only find out later. But to have someone go and reconstruct this crime scene for the defense attorney, a public defender defense attorney, that is pretty surprising on its own. At least in my thought at this time. Really, if you're just like me, we don't care what is going on. Get the right person behind bars to pay for what they have done to these 4 young kids who had so much life to live and give. And one ex-homicide detective and attorney, Ted Williams, said the fact that Bryan Kohberger's attorney has brought in private investigators to go throughout this crime scene leads me to believe that he is definitely going to mount a strong defense. Especially, this is me talking, if they do not have that weapon. Kohberger's public defender in Pennsylvania, Jason Labar, he said that the alleged killer expects to be exonerated. His family standing by him 100%. He claims that the family thinks it's completely out of character for him to be accused of this bloody slaying. Truth is, of course they're going to say that. Of course they're going to say that, right? That is literally not out of the ordinary by any stretch of the imagination. That is not out of the ordinary, is it? What we want to figure out is what is in those charging documents. What do they have on him? Because here he is shackled on this day, today, wearing this red prison garment. And he responded simply yes or no to each question that Judge Margarita Worthington asked him. And when Judge Worthington asked him if he suffered from any mental illnesses or was taking medication for any mental illnesses, he said no. And Judge Worthington ordered Kohberger to be transported to Idaho in the next 10 days. The whole entire hearing today lasted about 10 minutes. And arrangements, they were being made to transfer Kohberger back to Idaho. That's what Pennsylvania State Police Lieutenant Commissioner Christopher Paris confirmed. That's what he's sharing. In the meantime, he's still at Monroe County until we find out otherwise. And we will not know when they're on the road. My guess is we will know when they touch down. Because this is a high profile case. And truth is, we don't know much outside of that. Specific details regarding this investigation, until he receives that probable cause affidavit, we won't know more than that. We won't know. But it has been confirmed that state police became involved when the FBI contacted them about surveillance assistance for the suspect in Pennsylvania. I believe that they may not have been traveling with him as following. I'm believing that they started following him around Christmas time in Pennsylvania for 4 days. Again, we'll find out more later. Because these warrants were executed in the very early hours. Literally. It is said that they broke in windows, and they did this so fast to not put anyone at risk. If those parents didn't know anything about this, I really do feel bad for them. I truly feel bad for them. I do not think they had a clue about this guy who tried to be a perfectionist, who tried to commit the perfect crime. And I truly believe he's had this on his mind and mapping this out in his head for a long time. Will they have DNA inside that car? Nancy Grace believes that there has to be some type of evidence left in that car. I'm going to go out on a limb and say, Nancy Grace, I agree with you. I truly do agree. Even though it's been weeks and he's so meticulous about cleaning everything, he probably cleaned it 10 times. He had it in the shop. He literally, this is the house where he was captured in, where they broke in that early hours. He also confirmed that force was used to break into this home, including multiple windows and doors. That's what Mr. Paris was saying. He even estimated that there were about 50 state police personnel at the scene that Friday morning when they had the SWAT team come on in. And First Assistant District Attorney Mike Mancuso said that his office stood ready to assist investigators in Idaho by looking into Kohberger's activities in Pennsylvania. And he says, I definitely believe one of the reasons the defendant chose to waive extradition and return to Idaho was a need to know what was in those documents. I agree with that 100%. Really, if you stop and you think about it, this guy believes he's going to get away with this. I truly believe that. He believes he's ahead of them. He's calm, he's cool, he's collective about this. Literally. So force was definitely used in the home. This is his apartment in Washington, okay? And he was studying in Washington. But law enforcement, they did break windows and doors when executing this overnight search warrant in Pennsylvania. That is what has been confirmed. And truth is, Kohberger, he is literally not saying much. The guy first agrees to speak to law enforcement. He agrees. He waives his rights. Yep, I'll speak. And then he invokes his rights. Literally, like less than 15 minutes, but more than 5 minutes after they're asking him the hard questions. At first, the easy questions, try to get him loose. Then the hard questions, right? Then he lawyers up. And so now that he's been arrested, now he's waiting. But he is arrested on 4 counts of first degree. And according to Bryan Kohberger, one of his first comments Kohberger made shortly after he was arrested, I am told, this is what he said, I am told that when he was asked, Kohberger was in custody, he asked if anyone else was arrested. I'm blown away. Because of that comment, I truly believe an accessory to the crime is going to be arrested. Maybe they're cooperating right now. Someone could literally be cooperating with him to help find the knife. We don't know. Bryan Kohberger said, I'm told he had a quiet blank stare when he was arrested. Truth is, we don't know about all of this. We have to take everything with a grain of salt, especially like when that lady who was just released shared what she did. I don't believe it. I'm not sharing it. But he believes he's going to be exonerated. We will wait and see. My friends, this has been another episode of Deep True Crime, a little later than we're used to, but I just wanted to jump on here and keep you updated on what we continue to find out and learn and hear. I'm Manny Rodriguez. My friends, my whole goal is to be a voice for the victims and to please keep you aware of what could go wrong in this crazy world we live in. My friends, I'm Manny Rodriguez, and I look forward to serving you and being a voice for the victims again. Have a great day. Peace.